What happens when a member of the royal family sits down for what should be a friendly chat about charity work and mental health awareness, only to find themselves face to face with a host who seems more interested in picking a fight than having a conversation? In just 48 seconds, one comment would turn a television interview into an absolute car crash that nobody saw coming, leaving millions of viewers with their jaws on the floor and one very famous guest walking off set. The Loose Women studio was buzzing that afternoon. Prince Harry had agreed to appear on the show to discuss his charity work with veterans and his ongoing commitment to mental health advocacy. It was supposed to be a warm, supportive conversation, the kind of interview where everyone smiles, nods along, and the audience leaves feeling inspired. But from the moment Harry walked onto that set and took his seat on the famous Loose Women panel, something felt different. Denise Welch sat front and center, flanked by the other panelists. Ruth Langsford was to her right, trying to maintain her usual composed demeanor. Nadia Sawalha sat next to Ruth, and Jane Moore rounded out the panel. The audience applauded as Harry settled into his chair, giving a polite wave and that characteristic smile he is known for. He looked relaxed, perhaps even a little excited to share the work he had been doing. "Welcome, welcome," Denise began, her voice dripping with a tone that was hard to place. Was it enthusiasm? Was it something else? "So lovely to have you here with us today." "Thank you for having me," Harry replied, his voice genuine and warm. "I have been looking forward to this." Ruth jumped in quickly, clearly eager to steer the conversation toward the charity work. "You have been doing some incredible things with your foundation. Can you tell us a bit about what has been inspiring you lately?" Harry leaned forward, his eyes lighting up the way they always did when he talked about causes close to his heart. "Absolutely. We have been working with veterans who are transitioning back to civilian life. The mental health challenges they face are immense, and I think as a society, we do not talk about it enough. These men and women have served their country, and when they come home, they deserve our full support." Nadia nodded enthusiastically. "That is so important. The work you are doing is really making a difference." But before Harry could continue, Denise cut in. Her tone had shifted. There was an edge to it now. "I think it is interesting, though, is it not? You talk about service and duty, but you left your own duties behind, did you not?" The studio went quiet. You could feel the temperature in the room drop. Ruth shot Denise a look, one of those quick glances that said, "Where are you going with this?" But Denise did not seem to notice or care. Harry took a breath, maintaining his composure. "I think there is a difference between leaving duties behind and choosing a path where you can make the most impact. My family will always be important to me, but I also have a responsibility to use my platform for good." "A responsibility," Denise repeated, letting the word hang in the air. "But is it not a bit rich, coming here to talk about supporting veterans when you walked away from the ultimate service? The monarchy?" Jane Moore shifted uncomfortably in her seat. This was not what anyone had signed up for. The interview was supposed to be about mental health, about charity, about making a positive difference. Not this. Ruth tried to redirect. "Denise, perhaps we should let Harry tell us more about the specific programs he's working on. That is what our viewers are interested in." But Denise waved her hand dismissively. "In a moment, Ruth. I just think we need to address this first." Harry's expression remained calm, but his eyes showed his growing frustration. "Address what, exactly? The fact that I made a choice to prioritize my family's well-being?" "The fact that you had obligations," Denise said firmly. "Obligations that millions of people would have been honored to have. And you just walked away." "I did not walk away from service," Harry said, his voice still measured, but firmer now. "I walked away from an institution that was not allowing me to serve in the way I felt was right. There is a difference." "Is there, though?" Denise challenged. "Because from where I am sitting, It looks like you wanted all the perks without any of the responsibility. Nadia gasped audibly. Denise, that is completely unfair. Is it? Denise turned to Nadia. He still uses his title. He still benefits from his position. But he does not want to do the work. Harry's voice cut through, sharp now. You have no idea what work I do. You have no idea what my family has been through. Denise leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. But you had everything. A title, a platform, the respect of millions. And you just gave it up. Some people might say, that is quite selfish. Ruth tried to intervene. Denise, I think we should focus on the work Harry is doing now. That is why he is here. But Denise was not having it. No, Ruth, I think this is important. People want to know. They want to understand how someone can have it all and just throw it away. Throw it away? Harry's voice rose slightly. You think I threw it away? I protected my family. I chose mental health over tradition. I chose being present for my children over following a script that was written before I was born. But at what cost? Denise pressed. At the cost of your family relationships? At the cost of public trust? Jane finally had enough. Denise, stop. This is going too far. Too far? Denise turned to Jane. I am having a conversation. Is that not what we do here? This is not a conversation, Nadia said, her voice shaking with anger. This is an interrogation, and a hostile one at that. Harry's jaw tightened. You could see he was doing everything in his power to remain calm, to not let this get to him. With respect, you do not know what it was like. You do not know what my family went through, what my wife went through. Oh, here we go, Denise said, rolling her eyes. The victim card. The gasps from the audience were audible. Even the other panelists looked shocked. Nadia's mouth hung open. Jane looked like she wanted to sink into her chair. Ruth's eyes went wide, and she put her hand up as if to physically stop what was happening. Denise, that is completely out of line, Ruth said sharply. Completely and utterly out of line. You need to apologize right now. Apologize? Denise looked genuinely confused. For what? For speaking the truth? That is not truth, Ruth shot back. That is your opinion, and it is a hurtful, dismissive opinion that has no place in this conversation. But the damage was done. Harry sat there, staring at Denise with a look of disbelief mixed with hurt. The victim card? He repeated quietly. You think talking about mental health struggles, about facing relentless media attacks, about protecting your family, is playing the victim card? Denise shrugged, completely unbothered. I am just saying what a lot of people are thinking. You cannot expect to walk away from responsibility and then be praised for it. Responsibility, Harry said, his voice tight with controlled emotion. You want to talk about responsibility? Let me tell you about responsibility. I did not walk away from responsibility, Harry said, his voice rising now. I took on a different responsibility. I chose my family's well-being over an institution that cared more about appearances than people. That is responsibility. But you are still using your title, are you not? Denise shot back. You still benefit from being a prince. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot walk away and still hold on to the crown. Nadia finally spoke up, her voice shaking slightly. Denise, this is really inappropriate. Harry is here to talk about helping veterans and mental health, not to be interrogated about personal decisions. I am just asking questions, Denise said defensively. Is that not what we do here? Have honest conversations? There is a difference between honest conversations and being rude, Jane added, finding her voice at last. Harry stood up. Not dramatically, not with a flourish, but with a quiet dignity that somehow made the moment even more powerful. I came here today because I thought this would be a platform where I could talk about issues that matter, where I could shed light on the struggles that veterans face, the mental health crisis we are all dealing with. But instead, I have been ambushed. Ambushed? Denise laughed, actually laughed. You are being a bit dramatic, do not you think? No, Harry said firmly. I do not think I am being dramatic at all. You have spent this entire interview attacking me, questioning my choices, dismissing my experiences. You have shown zero interest in the actual reason I am here. Ruth stood up as well, placing a hand on Harry's arm. Harry, please. I am so sorry. This is not how this was supposed to go. Harry looked at Ruth, and his expression softened slightly. I know it is not your fault, Ruth, but I truly cannot sit here and be disrespected like this. Not when there are real issues we should be discussing. Denise was still sitting, arms crossed, looking defiant. Oh, come on. You are really going to walk off because someone asked you a few tough questions? They were not tough questions, Harry said, turning to look at her directly. They were loaded, disrespectful attacks disguised as questions. There is a difference. The audience was completely silent now. Every eye in that studio was fixed on what was unfolding. This was not scripted. This was not planned. This was real emotion, real tension, playing out in real time. You know what the saddest part is? Harry continued. I came here to talk about men and women who have sacrificed everything for their country. People who are struggling, who need help, who need a voice. And you have turned this into a circus about me. You have made it about tabloid gossip instead of real issues. Denise finally stood up, and now there was an edge of anger in her voice. I have a right to ask whatever questions I want. This is my show. Actually, Ruth interjected quietly, it is our show. All of ours. And right now, you are speaking for yourself, not for us. Denise turned to Ruth, looking genuinely surprised. Excuse me? You heard me, Ruth said, her voice steady. We are supposed to be a panel. We discuss things. We do not attack our guests. Jane nodded. Ruth is right. This has gone too far. Nadia added, Harry came here in good faith, and this is how we treat him? It is embarrassing. Denise looked around at her fellow panelists, clearly not expecting this united front against her. You are all being ridiculous. I am just doing my job. Your job is not to bully guests, Harry said quietly. Your job is to have conversations, to listen, to engage with respect, and you have done none of that. There was a long pause, the kind of pause that feels like it lasts forever when you are watching it. Harry looked at each of the panelists, then at the audience, and finally back at Denise. I have spent years dealing with people who think they have a right to my life, to my story, to my pain, he said. I have dealt with media who twist words, who create narratives, who care more about clicks than truth, and I am done with it. I am done sitting quietly while people like you treat me as if my experiences, my struggles, my choices are nothing more than entertainment. Denise opened her mouth to respond, but Harry held up a hand. No, I am not finished. You want to know why I walked away from the institution? It is because of this. This exact attitude. This belief that just because someone is in the public eye, they are fair game for any kind of treatment. That their mental health does not matter. That their family does not matter. That they should just sit there and take it with a smile. His voice cracked slightly on those last words, and you could see the emotion he was holding back. This was not just about this interview. This was about years of frustration, years of feeling misunderstood, years of being judged. Every single day, veterans are struggling, Harry continued. They are dealing with trauma, with PTSD, with the challenge of reintegrating into a society that often does not understand what they have been through. And do you know what makes it harder? When people like you dismiss their struggles. When you turn real pain into a punchline. When you act like asking for help is weak. Ruth had tears in her eyes now. Harry, we want to hear about the work. Please, stay. We can restart this. But Harry shook his head gently. I appreciate that, Ruth. I really do. But I cannot stay here. Not after this. It would be disrespectful to myself, to my family, and honestly, to every person who has ever struggled with their mental health and been told they were just playing the victim. He unclipped his microphone, the small sound seeming deafening in the silent studio. The technical crew did not know what to do. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of this unprecedented moment. I want to say something to anyone watching who is struggling right now, Harry said, looking directly into the camera. Your feelings are valid. Your experiences matter. Do not let anyone make you feel like seeking help or setting boundaries or choosing your own path makes you weak or selfish. It does not. It makes you human. Denise finally spoke again, but her voice was different now. Less confident, more defensive. This is completely unnecessary. You are making a scene. Harry turned to her one last time. No, Denise. You made the scene. I am just refusing to be part of it. And with that, he walked toward the exit. Ruth called after him, Harry, please, but he kept walking. Nadia looked like she might cry. Jane sat there shaking her head in disbelief, and Denise stood in the middle of it all, looking around as if she could not quite believe what had just happened. The studio doors opened and Harry walked through them. Just before they closed behind him, he paused for the briefest moment, as if considering whether to turn back. But then he continued forward, and the doors swung shut with a soft click that somehow felt like the loudest sound in the world. Back on the panel, chaos erupted. The cameras were still rolling, and Ruth immediately turned to Denise. What was that? What were you thinking? Denise threw her hands up. I was asking legitimate questions. Everyone is so sensitive these days. Legitimate questions? Ruth's voice was sharp now, sharper than viewers had ever heard it. You called him a victim. You mocked him for protecting his family. How is any of that legitimate? Those were not questions, Jane said angrily. That was an attack. A personal attack on someone who came here to do something good. He should not have walked off, Denise insisted. It makes him look weak. No, Nadia said firmly. It makes him look like someone who knows his worth. Someone who will not tolerate being treated poorly. And honestly, good for him. Good for him? Denise's voice rose. He just embarrassed this show on live television. No, Denise, Ruth said coldly. You embarrassed this show. You ambushed a guest who came here in good faith. You turned what should have been a meaningful conversation about mental health into a personal attack. Jane leaned forward, her face serious. Do you even realize what you did? He was talking about veterans, about people who are genuinely suffering, and you made it all about tabloid drama. I was addressing the elephant in the room, Denise defended. Everyone wants to know about his choices. This was not the time or place, Nadia said, shaking her head. He was here for a specific reason, to shine a light on important issues, and you completely derailed it. The audience started to murmur, the sound building like a wave. Some were clearly on Harry's side. Others seemed confused about what they had just witnessed. But one thing was clear. This was not a normal episode of Loose Women. This was something else entirely. An audience member stood up, her voice cutting through the tension. I just want to say, I came here today expecting to hear about charity work. Instead, I watched a host bully someone for making choices about their own life. It was uncomfortable to watch. Other audience members nodded in agreement. Another person spoke up. He was trying to talk about serious issues, and it felt like you were not even listening. You just wanted to go after him. Denise looked around, clearly taken, aback by the audience reaction. I am entitled to my opinion. Having an opinion is one thing, Ruth said. Using your platform to attack someone is another. Ruth tried to regain control. We need to take a break. We need to figure out what to do here. But Denise was not backing down. We do not need to do anything. We continue the show. We move on. Move on? Jane's voice was incredulous. Our guest just walked off set because you ambushed him. How do we just move on from that? He was being dramatic, Denise said, but even she did not sound fully convinced anymore. The producer's voice came through their earpieces, though the viewers at home could not hear it. Whatever was being said, it made Ruth close her eyes and take a deep breath. Nadia looked down at her hands. Jane bit her lip, and Denise crossed her arms tighter, her face set in stubborn defiance. "We are going to a commercial break," Ruth finally announced to the camera. "When we come back, we will figure out what we are doing." As the cameras cut and the red lights blinked off, the full weight of what had just happened seemed to settle over everyone. The audience sat in stunned silence. The crew looked at each other with wide eyes. And somewhere outside that studio, Prince Harry was walking away from what was supposed to be a simple interview about charity work and had turned into something nobody could have predicted. Ruth turned to Denise, and her voice was low but furious. "Do you have any idea what you have just done?" Denise met her gaze, still defiant. "I asked questions that people want answered." "No," Ruth said sharply. "You attacked a guest. You were rude, you were dismissive, and you made this entire show look terrible." "I was honest," Denise shot back. "There is a difference between honesty and cruelty," Nadia said quietly. "And what you did was cruel." Jane nodded. "We are supposed to create a space where people feel comfortable sharing their stories. How? Is anyone going to want to come on this show now after seeing how you treated him?" "Oh, please," Denise said. "He will be fine. He has millions of pounds and a mansion. I am sure he will recover from someone asking him a few hard questions." "You just do not get it, do you?" Ruth said, shaking her head. "This was not about him being rich or famous. This was about basic human decency, about respecting someone's experiences, about creating a conversation instead of a confrontation." The producer approached the panel, clipboard in hand, and stress written all over their face. "We have a problem. Social media is exploding. The hashtag is already trending. We need to decide how we are going to handle this when we come back." Denise looked at the producer. "We just continue. Talk about something else. It will blow over." "Blow over?" The producer's voice rose slightly. "A member of the royal family just walked off our show because of how he was treated. This is not going to blow over." Ruth stood up, removing her microphone. "I am not continuing this show. Not like this. We need to address what happened properly." "You cannot just walk off, too," Denise said, but her voice lacked its earlier confidence. "Watch me," Ruth replied. She looked at Nadia and Jane. "Are you two staying?" Nadia stood up immediately. "No, I am with you, Ruth." Jane hesitated for just a moment, then stood as well. "This is not what I signed up for. I am not going to sit here and pretend what just happened was okay." Denise looked around at the three women, all standing, all clearly done with the show. "You are all being ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous." "No, Denise," Ruth said quietly. "You were being ridiculous. You were being cruel. And you need to take a long, hard look at why you felt the need to attack someone who came here to talk about helping people." The audience, who had been trying to remain quiet during the commercial break, started whispering among themselves. Some pulled out their phones, undoubtedly already posting about what they had witnessed. Others just sat there, still processing the absolute chaos of the last several minutes. Back in the green room area, Harry sat with his personal assistant, who had watched the entire thing unfold on a monitor. "Are you okay?" they asked gently. Harry nodded slowly. "Yeah, I am okay. It just reminded me of why I needed to make the changes I made. Why I cannot subject myself to that kind of treatment anymore." "You handled it with incredible grace," his assistant said. "A lot of people would have lost their temper." "I thought about it," Harry admitted, with a small, sad smile. "But that is what she wanted. She wanted me to get angry, to lose control, to give her the dramatic moment she was looking for. I was not going to give her that satisfaction. Outside the studio, news vans were already starting to arrive. Word had spread quickly through industry channels about what had happened. This was the kind of television moment that people would be talking about for weeks, months, maybe even years. Inside, Denise sat alone on the panel now, all three of her co-hosts having walked away. The producer stood nearby, phone pressed to their ear, undoubtedly talking to network executives who were trying to figure out how to handle this unprecedented situation. "We are not coming back from break, are we?" Denise finally asked, her voice smaller than before. The producer lowered their phone. "No, we are not. The show is over. We are going to air a rerun for the rest of the time slot." Denise's face fell. For the first time since Harry had walked off, she seemed to realize the gravity of what had happened. It was not supposed to go like this. "Then how was it supposed to go?" the producer asked. "What exactly were you hoping to achieve?" Denise did not have an answer. She sat there in silence, surrounded by empty chairs that had, just minutes ago, been occupied by her colleagues. The bright studio lights suddenly felt harsh and exposing. In the audience, people were beginning to file out, talking animatedly among themselves about what they had just witnessed. It was the kind of television moment you tell your friends about, the kind you cannot quite believe actually happened, even though you saw it with your own eyes. "I cannot believe she said that about the victim card," one audience member said to another as they walked toward the exit. "I know. And the way he handled it, just standing up and saying his piece. That took real courage. She was completely out of line. I used to like her, but after this, I do not know." These conversations were happening all over the studio, all over social media, all over the country as the clip began to circulate online. In the age of instant communication, what had just happened in that studio was already reaching millions of people. Harry's security team had arrived, ready to escort him out of the building. As he prepared to leave, Ruth found him in the hallway. "Harry, I am so sorry," she said, and she genuinely looked devastated. "That should never have happened. What Denise did was unacceptable, and I want you to know that we do not support it." Harry gave her a kind smile. "Thank you, Ruth. I appreciate that. And I know it was not you. You tried to steer it back." "I should have done more," Ruth said. "I should have shut it down harder." "You did what you could," Harry assured her. "This is not on you." They shook hands, and there was a mutual respect in that moment. A recognition that sometimes, despite your best efforts, things spiral out of control, and all you can do is try to maintain your integrity through it. As Harry walked toward the exit, flanked by his security, he passed by crew members who offered sympathetic smiles and quiet words of support. "Good on you," one camera operator said. She was well out of order. Harry nodded his thanks, but kept moving. He had said everything he needed to say. Now, he just wanted to leave, to process what had happened, and to refocus on the work that truly mattered. The doors to the outside world opened, and Harry stepped out into the afternoon light. The news vans were there, reporters already shouting questions, but his security team moved him smoothly past them and into the waiting car. As the car pulled away, Harry looked back at the building one last time. In another life, in another set of circumstances, that interview could have gone so differently. It could have been a platform for real conversation, for spreading awareness, for making a difference. Instead, it had become a moment that highlighted everything wrong with a certain type of media culture. The belief that public figures owe you their trauma as entertainment, that boundaries are optional, that respect is earned only by those who never push back. But in walking away, Harry had made his own statement, a quiet, dignified refusal to participate, in his own diminishment, and sometimes that is the most powerful message of all.